later I'll go all the way, and then once we are done, we can come back to the question. Okay, so now I'm going to share my screen. I'm hoping everyone can hear me very well. So it says host disabled participant screen sharing. So if you can make me host, that would be helpful. I don't know if there's anyone that can help with that. I'll try again and see. Yes, now I can.
Okay. You can host, can you share now?
Yes, I'm able to share.
Thank you.
And I just want to do something here. Yeah, so we are good to go. So our topic today, comparative analysis of Uganda and American education systems. So I'll be comparing majorly these two, and I will talk a little bit more about the American education system. I left Uganda in 2012, and I know a lot has happened. So, and also why I will, in my comparative analysis, why I will talk more about the American one is because my audience is majorly Ugandan, and you are experts of knowledge regarding the Ugandan education system. And I stand to be corrected, and I will invite any input from everyone once we are done. If you have anything to add on, feel free to put it in the chat, and let us make it interactive as much as possible. So what are we going to cover today? We are going to look at educational structures, enrollment, time spent at school, education costs and expenses, curriculum, assessment, learning culture, and a little bit of some encouragement from the scripture. So not knowing specifically what the interest was in this topic, I'm just going to touch mostly like an overview on various things that we're going to talk about today. Feel free to ask questions later, and if I can answer the question, well and good. If I can't, I'll find you the information. So education structure. So starting with the Ugandan system, what you see right here is Uganda's education structure. We have kids start school at 6 years old. I hope that's still the case. They spend 7 years in primary school, spend 4 years at the lower secondary level, 2 years at the upper secondary level, sometimes 3 to 5 years for bachelor's, 1.5 to 3 years for master's, and then about 3 years plus for doctoral degree. So moving on, the US education structure, we have the early childhood, elementary, middle school, and high school. So usually early childhood is 2 to 5 years, and that's preschool. And majorly involves motor skills, early math, language, vocabulary, listening skills, problem-solving skills. And so what's happening usually with that level, from my experience as a mother who has had kids go through this system, it's usually like about 3 hours a day and twice a week at the preschool level. So the elementary level is K to 5, and that's kindergarten to grade 5, ages 5 to 10. Major stuff is reading, understanding, writing, relationship skills, math skills, and language. And then we have the middle school. Those are grades 6 to 8, ages 11 to 13. And here it is still math problems, problem solving, learning, solving learning, reading, writing, complicated texts. And then we have the high school. And with high school, that's grades 9 to 12, ages 14 to 18. And this includes measuring algebra, geometry, challenging texts, building arguments, understanding vocabulary, and college preparation. So even if I've gone briefly through this, I have some 2 short videos that we are going to play next. I hope technology really cooperates. Sometimes things don't work the way you think and have wanted them to work. So that still goes over the US education structure. And with these videos, my choice of the videos are one is look at it really like portrays the actual in real life, like how is the school looking like, how are the classes looking like, so for you to just have a peek. Let me hope you can hear that.
I'd like to take some time to introduce you to the school system here in America. If you've just come here from another country, you may notice some differences in how our schools work. In the United States, students are required to attend school from kindergarten starting at age 5 through 12th grade. After that, they graduate and move on to college or into a career. We have elementary schools for students in kindergarten through 5th or 6th grade, middle schools for students in 6th through 8th grade, and high schools for students in 9th through 12th grades. You may hear these high school students referred to as freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. We also have a few schools known as K through 8 schools that run all the way from kindergarten to 8th grade. Let's look at typical school schedules. Once school starts, normally in elementary, there's a morning break, lunch, and for younger students, an additional afternoon break. We call these breaks recess. Younger students generally have the same teacher all day. In middle and high schools, students change classes and have different teachers. They have about 3 to 5 minutes to get to their next class. There's a morning break and a lunch. Now it's time to meet the school staff. The principal is the person in charge of the school. Then there's a vice principal who's second in command. These people can help you with questions or concerns that you may have regarding your student. The secretary supports school staff and helps students. They may answer the phone when you call with questions or call your home when your child is sick. Counselors help your child with social or emotional issues, as well as making sure they're taking the right classes. Counselors and social workers are additional resources that we encourage you and your child to access. Teachers teach classes and grade your students. English Language Development, or ELD teachers, are teachers who specialize in teaching English to English learners in the area of reading, writing, and speaking. In addition to your students' classes during the day, you may have them participate in before and after school programs. These programs support and build on the work your student completes during the school day. Check with your school to see what programs might be available. Your child may also participate in after-school activities, ranging from sports to academic clubs.
We have the second one. This is what I was talking about. Technology. I just want to have it to play. Just forgive me about this whole repetition, but let's get it to work. I'd never done it that way. Perfect. Here it comes.
The U.S. higher education system is a bit like the American character. It celebrates independence, ambition, inclusiveness, and competitiveness. The U.S. higher education system also has its own names for each year of an undergraduate degree, which you may or may not be familiar with. For example, the first year of a degree is known as the freshman year, the second as the sophomore year, the third as the junior year, and the final as the senior year. A typical American student will complete 12 years of education before progressing to college to pursue a bachelor's degree which takes 4 years to complete. Some students continue to graduate school to study for a master's degree, which takes an additional 2 to 3 years. U.S. undergraduate degrees usually require 4 years of full-time study. The academic year runs for 9 months, with 2 semesters per year. Each semester, you'll study 4 or 5 courses, and each course you study will earn academic credits. There are usually 3 to 4 credits per course, and you'll be expected to complete 120 to 130 credit hours in order to complete an undergraduate degree. At On Campus, we can help you to navigate the complex university admissions process and give you the tools you need to succeed in your degree program.
Thank you so much for staying with us. I hope you are not bored through those videos. And I like to use different ways to present information. I may not do justice in explaining things, but sometimes I hope you got a clearer view of from these videos. So there's some other things I really wanted to talk more about before we can continue. So regarding higher education, I wanted to note, and in comparison with our Ugandan system, you know, in Uganda, you'll hear people say, okay, I want my child to do law. Which university is the best for, like in law, like in regards to law? Okay, we are going to go to UCU because UCU maybe is the best. Or we are going to Makerere for this and this course because Makerere is the best. So regarding the American education system, well, there's this hype. You'll hear people talk about Harvard, and it almost feels like there are some institutions that really stand out so much more than others. But in the actual sense, on the base right here, what happens is that every state has its so-called Harvard. And even if you don't go to that so-called Harvard of every state, you'll find that as long as an institution is accredited to offer certain degrees, that's all it takes. So all you need is an admission and whether you can afford the education at whatever the institution is. So at the end of it all, especially in the American system, if you are going out to the job market, you'll not hear people attaching your degrees to institutions. What matters is you have a bachelor's degree, you have a master's degree, you have a doctorate. So you'll never hear anyone like ask where. Whereas there's that tendency. I'm bringing that in because that's something that comes up in the American system. So I will add more as we go on. Oh, there's another thing I wanted to highlight here also. Also with courses. For example, you know, certain courses take a certain specific time to complete. I want to say, for example, a medical degree. If you are wanting to do a medical degree in the US, it's about 10 to 14 years. You have to first do a bachelor's degree. They're specific, every school is different, every university is different. A bachelor's degree, it could be in anything, but in alignment to medicine. It could be bachelor's in biology, bachelor's in chemistry, or nursing. And then after that, that is 4 years. You apply to get to medical school, and the medical school is also 4 years. And then you also have residency, which is about 3 to 4 years too, but it depends upon how your progress goes. So that's why I'm saying 10 to 14 years. And then I also wanted to bring in something here too regarding, for example, nursing. Nursing is a very good course that really leads someone to living a successful, fulfilling life after. But if you are comparing a nursing degree in the Ugandan system with a nursing degree in the American, coming from the Ugandan perspective, you may think, oh no, I do not want nursing, but nursing is one great one. And the way it is designed here, you can specialize in emergency or pediatric or gynecology, different specialties, like you get to choose, or mental health. So it is one that I've seen many immigrants get into, and they are really successful. So moving on, enrollment. So enrollment in Uganda is according to scores. You have to have passed really highly to get into universities, to get to study your courses. Even when we look at earlier, like secondary schools, you need to have the scores required by particular schools to get in. Sometimes I know with even the scores, if you do not have any networking, you may not get in. If the cutoff was 8 and you didn't know anyone, you won't get in. That was my experience when I was going to secondary. I remember I had 8. My first choice school didn't take me, yet they took some people who had 8. Well, I went to the second choice school because I knew no one. My parents knew no one there. Then the finances part, sometimes, well, also finances matter because different schools charge fees differently. So it depends upon where you want to be. And again, our schools in Uganda are either like tilted to various religious denominations. So it depends upon what you as a family believe. If you really want a child to go to an Anglican school, that's where you find your choices will be in that line. Or if you are tilted to Catholic, there are various. So accordingly. Whereas in the US, yes, scores matter, but these scores are mostly for higher education. We have the key thing, especially from K to 12, is residency. And K to 12, I'm talking about kindergarten to grade 12. That is primary school to end of secondary. Residency matters. So where you live determines where your child goes to school. So the key homework to do, and I've done this over and over again, if let's say I live right now, I live in Ridgefield, sorry, but I lived in Vancouver first. But we moved to Washington from Pennsylvania. So before we did the move, there was a lot of homework to do. I had to do lots of reading to look at the ratings of schools. And so I wanted to be in an area where I could get to particular schools. So it is as automatic as that. Once you're in there, you get to the school you want. There are also religious schools. If you really want a religious foundation, a strong Christian foundation for your child, you can enroll your kids in those schools. So international students, sometimes there are some international students that study in primary, secondary schools, as well as universities. The process is really like getting accepted into the school, of course, paying the fees. International students pay really heavily with fees, and then you receive an I-20 form from the school to use to help process the visa requirements. Enrollment in public schools mostly, and this I went through it. So, like I said, you go to a school within the neighborhood you live, but they have to prove that there's stuff they ask to prove that you actually live there. They have to have your name, it's electric bill, a lease agreement. And also, they always ask for proof of birth certificate, because you know what is interesting is that school runs at different times. And so I'm going to cover that later anyway. I can bring this in. So there's proof of immunizations. They are very strict about that. And then identity too. They need more than one form of identity to prove that you are the person and you live where you say you live. Private schools are a little bit difficult to get into. They have a whole long list of things, including interviews. They do not care about the residency part, but there's a lot of other extras involved with the private schools. So there's a student essay, academic transcripts, recommendation letters, and parent statements, all these things that are not required for public schools. I hope I get to meet what I was going to talk about that I really did not talk about here. Anyway, time spent at school. So in Uganda, the school year is typically running from early February to early December. I know right now schools, children are in their longest holiday of the year. So it takes around 260 days in school. And mostly it is boarding schools, I want to say. In the US, the school year typically runs from late August to early June, with students spending about 180 days in school. So this is what I was going to actually add. And so, because it is, you see, this first challenged me when I first joined, but luckily enough, my kids were born at such a time that they would really get in. So what happens is that because it is, the school runs from August to June, and there's specific age that you're supposed to start school. So if your child has let's say this is 2024. If my child was born in September, they don't get to start school in August. Even if they are making 6 in September, they have to wait for the next year to start school. Whereas I think these things would be lenient with if it was the Ugandan setting. So you find that the age ranges for classes range from, like, my youngest daughter was born in August, so she's right on point. So but she would have kids that were born, for example, who are like almost a year older, just because of the way the system runs. And so one other thing I wanted to mention, why it was confusing for me, because we also live briefly in Australia, and Australia runs, the school system is like the Ugandan one. All British founded institutions are almost similar. And so they were also very strict, like your child has to have already hit the age requirement before they can start. If the child was born in March, they have to wait a whole year to get to start. And then the other thing that I wanted to add here is that school here, the average time spent at school is about 5.5 hours a day. And usually, so kids will start school about 9 for elementary, and they end school about 3:30. But the older kids, because elementary is the younger, the older kids start a little bit earlier, like a difference of 30 minutes. Generally, because of the transportation, they use same buses to ferry kids around. So that's why there's that difference. And then one thing I also love is that we have, and this is like on Wednesdays, where my kids go, it is late start. So instead of starting, it's 1 hour late. So kids have been waking up, and then they get to sleep in a little bit, which is very helpful for the kids themselves. But I want to say it's a little bit brutal on the parents sometimes, because you have got to sometimes jobs do not wait, but you have to tilt them to all this. Okay, moving on. Education costs, I know, just like, and I stand to be corrected here, most of the education in Uganda is not free. You've got to pay fees. And then this that you see right here is for the US. Public institutions are free. And then private institutions, they are very expensive. So, but we have different reasons why people will enroll kids in the private institutions. And personally, if I am able, like I have seen people enroll kids in Christian founded schools, but if I can find a good church and also being able to model my students, my children the way I want at home, I will save my money and save it for the university. The university is not free here. And it depends upon where you live. If you want your child to study in a different state that you don't live in, the fees is higher. And international students pay the highest of all. Okay, moving on, the curriculum. And this is a new one. According to what I was trying to find out, the Ugandan curriculum currently is competence-based and focuses on equipping students with practical skills like critical thinking, collaboration, communication, alongside traditional academic subjects. So what I understand is that it provides elective choices in vocational areas like agriculture, commerce, computer studies, at the lower secondary level. So, and my understanding is that it started 4 years ago. It is less courses and more practical, and they're moving away from the teacher-centered to learner-centered. And this is just the lower secondary level. My understanding is that it will soon move to the upper secondary. I don't know about the primary. So in contrast, the United States education curriculum is based on the common core state standards. And so these are like, there are some core subjects that are required that go all through the education, especially before the students specialize. And then elective ones. So we have some of the core ones include English language arts, math, history, geography, and social studies. Elective subjects include art, music, design, technology, athletics, and world languages. So mostly the education curriculum, the US education curriculum, encourages creativity, innovation, liberal thinking. You'll find that the students have an opportunity for exploration. And here, what I want to say is, like, when students get to high school, they have options to enroll in dual courses, but it depends upon how strong your child is. So that dual enrollment, the child has 1 foot in high school and then 1 foot in a college and earns college credits, which college credits will help reduce the total number of time they spend at the university. So that is one way, dual enrollment, and we call that running start here in Washington. But there's also AP classes. The AP classes where students can still be in high school but enroll in extra classes and earn credits towards the university. There are technicalities around this. You have to be calculative because you have to be sure what you want to study. If you just enroll anyhowly, it is going to be useless. It will be hard work for nothing, because if you enroll in like psychology and then you end up doing engineering that doesn't require psychology, so it's effort for nothing. So For example, I have my daughter in a running start. So, and she also is not sure what she wanted to do. So the trick was, let's enroll in general courses. So, which will actually go across. So she has one foot in high school and enrolled in the general courses at the community college. So she graduates with a high school diploma with an associate's degree. So meaning that eases how much I have to pay for university, because then she will have 2 years of university covered and she studies 2 years to make up for one degree. So I hope I covered that. So generally, the curriculum it covers, it is holistic, like it is training a whole child. So they have options for different activities they can participate in. They can volunteer, and that will count as credits. They also can do any other projects, and the projects can be attached to, we have like Microsoft, we have Boeing, and that is if that is their interest, and that also counts towards their future studies or future line, like their interest can be developed that way. And also it is a partnership between educators, students, parents, and the community, quite a strong partnership. I say this because in Uganda, you pay fees and send children to school. That's it. Most of the time you can help and, encourage the children somehow. But here, these parents here are very invested. They'll be in schools, in and out of school. Like, I can't keep up personally, but I watch from a distance because we are different. It is understanding where you're at in this journey. One thing I also wanted to say is that they also have like an IEP program. That IEP is individualized education program for like students with developmental disabilities or behavior challenges. They try to model the education to match their needs. Here comes the exercise. So the exercise, if you click the link, the question is, what do you like about the new competence-based curriculum? And the way to go there is you click that link that I put in the chat earlier. If someone can help me copy and post it again, because I know people who joined after I posted that will not see the link, and that's the easiest. The second one is you use your camera if you're on a computer to scan the QR code. The QR code will generate a small link that you click that takes you to the question. The third option is you can put the answer in the chat, and we'll review this at the end. Thank you. Moving on, the assessments. Assessments in Uganda are mostly summative and formative. And here, the summative is that assessment at the end of the course. So at the end of the semester, you will have a general exam that is evaluating mastery of content. Whereas the formative one is an ongoing assessment during the semester or the term to evaluate mastery of knowledge in the various small topics that are offered. Like if I taught division, and then I'm going to give an exercise, and that is evaluating if division was learned. And then I want to jump to the interim because it's on the US side. The interim is offered. This is an assessment that is offered at specific intervals to evaluate mastery of knowledge for students and inform the instruction. So in the US, you find that kids are offered these standardized assessment that is given at the beginning of the semester, beginning of the year, mid-year, and end of the year to evaluate where they're at, and so they can concentrate on the weaker points that they have. And so below are all the examples described that match these forms of assessments that we are using in both places. moving on. The learning culture in Uganda, the teacher is often seen as the authority figure and the primary source of information. Students are expected to listen, take notes, memorize information, and students tend to be more respectful of their teachers and have a great sense of discipline. Whereas in the US, the American students have more freedom and are encouraged to express themselves. American schools tend to have a more relaxed and informal atmosphere. So for me, born and raised in Uganda, when I enter an American school, I am in shock because there's no this peace and quiet where like you can hear the sound of a pin drop. These kids are working, but conversing, and there's a lot going on, but they're doing their work. And like I said earlier, it is a joint partnership between the student, the teacher, and the parent. So much more that I can go on and on about that part. Okay, moving on to the final part, encouragement from the scripture. I know it's a lot of information. I've gone through so much. Just imagine if you have to navigate all these things, getting to understand how these systems work. But despite everything, we're encouraged from Philippians 4:13 that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So if you have a child who is interested in giving it a try, they can make it, they can do it. With God, everything is possible. And then 1 Thessalonians 5:11 says, therefore, encourage one another and build each other up. We want to thank God so much for platforms like this, where we can share information, we can help build each other. So let's continue to do that, as this scripture says. And then again, 1 Thessalonians 5:16-18, be joyful always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances. We tend to always quickly blame ourselves and, forgetting to give thanks that we are able to even breathe in the moment. And prayer moves mountains. So let us always pray and give thanks. That gives us that peace. And in Proverbs 4:13, always remember what you have learned. Your education is your life. Guard it well. That speaks for itself. And then, sorry about that. I just have to do something here. This is my last verse probably. Train a child the way they should go. And when they are old, they will not turn from it. So depending on what it is you wish your child to engage in, work hard to make sure they get wherever they should get, and that will be helpful. And I think that marks the end of my presentation today. So it's time for the questions, but also reviewing the answers or anything that was put in the chat. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I can share the other one if there's anything. If there's nothing, I don't have to share it. We can actually discuss. Let me just look. Just one moment. Well, no one answered. There's no response, so I don't have to share. Meaning no one has anything to say, but no worries. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Mrs. Agatha Muzoora, for the presentations. Members, what do you like about the competence-based curriculum? I know there are some answers coming in.
Mhm.
So
I
thank
see
you
that.
for participating. thing. Annette Musimenta says she loves the emphasis on the skills and student participation in the CBC. Eliab is asking to be unmuted. Please host kindly help us and you unmute Eliab. Chiriza, I know Eliab, I'm sure he has a contribution to give. And so the other one in who is named the user.
I can take it on from there. I think words are skipping from Dr. Faith. So the user is saying,
if the name is not there, the CBT communication, collaboration, problem solving.
okay, so that was Evelyn saying the CBC promotes the 21st century. They include creativity, critical thinking, communication, collaboration, problem solving, digital skills, all this aiming at producing graduates who are job creators and not job seekers. Great contribution. Thank you so much, Evelyn. So, any questions? Thank you so much for your contribution.
Yes, Eliab?
Am I being heard? Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Presenter. That was so wonderful. Yeah, I'm happy for this presentation. And actually, I would say that when I had her make a presentation with last time, it is me who requested for this topic, because I've been so inquisitive about, I've been curious about what America does as a magic to make its citizens, when it comes to technology and other areas. You see that they have been wanting to know the magic that they do. But lately, I have also come to see people come to rubbish the American system, like Elon Musk. I've been actually trying to search for one of his tweets, but I failed to get it. But he was rubbishing the system of America's education, that it needs a complete overhaul. And I'm wondering, like, now, what's the issue now? Because we are dying for the American side, but now they are also wanting to change. So what is the problem? Are Americans also unemployed? You have been in Uganda. Is the cause of unemployment in Uganda out of education? And Americans who are unemployed, possibly, is it because of the education systems? Is the unemployment in Uganda due to education? Are the Americans who are unemployed, is it due to education system? So, and as I'm finishing, I would like also to outline the two differences I've seen. One, we don't have social workers and counselors in the system in Uganda as it is in America. In primary school, which is elementary in America, in Uganda, there is no special. A teacher goes to college, now it is university. They are removing the fees, not the colleges, but projects, including even the unique subjects like literacy, and also maybe it could be contributing somehow. I'm also now in education. I'm also in education, though I am a social worker. I was actually, Madam Faith is my former teacher, but now I'm also a teacher. I am a literacy coach. I just got to training, and now I'm a teacher of teachers on literacy. So you can see how there are great areas in the system. Thank you so much. But my two questions were those in between the conversation I have just said.
Thank you so much for the questions, Eliab. And I also am open to connecting with you and discuss. I think you have lots of other observations that you'd love to hear. And you may actually have to point me to the second question. One that I had was whether the unemployment in Uganda can be tied to education, the education system. And let me just talk to that. I don't know. I want to say the education system in Uganda is highly job seeker, not job creator. So you have so many graduates that are seated waiting for jobs, which jobs do not have, still have people in them, aside of corruption itself. But in the US, first of all, even if education is hyped and hyped and hyped, a child, by the end they finish high school, they are already set to get into employment. There's lots of, so because they have created an all-round child, I have noticed that the projects they do at school and all those things, by high school already, they have a mindset of working. And at that level, there is no disregard of employment, of jobs. Like they know, there's starting levels. But look at our education system. We are teaching a child all the way to the end of the university. So here you have a high school student who is already working part-time, doing small jobs, and then they work their way up. But sometimes, because they are in these small jobs and the high school diploma is such a big thing, that experience counts. So many people in the US actually do not have degrees. They have high school diploma and the years of experience that equates to a bachelor's, for example. I work in the state system where I very much feel disgruntled several times because you have someone, you feel you're very qualified, but yet you are headed, the boss or the so-called leaders are high school. Education-wise, they do not match you, but they got into the system early, and because they have so many years of experience, that counts. That I want to say that may equate to the education. And there's always also about the criticisms around the education system. There's always going to be people for and people against. That's what I see. There's lots. And the technology bit, I want to say I had something about technology. Yeah, technology is encouraged from a young age. Kids from kindergarten are using technology. The negative about that is that people who are speaking are coming in from a conservative point of view. I agree. Of course, when we compare where we came from to where we are, these kids will never leave the electronics. They cannot engage. They can't engage in a conversation because they are really super glued on those electronics. I think that is one thing that people are critiquing regarding the technology part, though some are for it. So at the end of the day, it depends upon what someone, it's according to, what you think as a person, but it's complicated because technology is not slowing down at all. I don't know if really I touched the questions, like I only was sure of one, but we can always connect in case you have more you want me to clarify on. Can I go ahead and read the other question I see? I like the environment where there's a Hope Abram says, I like the environment where the teacher is a facilitator, not the king of the classroom. I don't like the way we fear teachers or lecturers. Yeah, that's a good point because it creates that distance and then it impacts learning. And I love the learner involvement, which makes them their own actions. That's from Christine. Yeah, thank you so much for all your engagement and contributions. And I'm really open to having a continued conversation if you really want to talk more. And I would like to talk to Eliab. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Agatha Muzoora. I hope my network is still good.
I can hear you.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yes. We thank God for your presentation. Thank you. This has been very good. And for me, I even love the quality of the slides. Very good.